My mother uninvited my daughter from the lavish Thanksgiving dinner I was fully funding, claiming she was too difficult for the guests. She assumed I'd still pay. I canceled the catering card just before service, leaving them with empty tables and total humiliation. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The migraine had started early that morning, a dull, rhythmic thumping behind my left eye that usually signaled I had pushed myself too hard. As a high-end event coordinator, pushing too hard was effectively my job description, but this week had been different. I wasn't burning the candle at both ends for a client. I was doing it for my mother, Beatrice. I sat at my kitchen island, pressing a cold compress to my forehead, while my 7-year-old daughter, Zoe, played quietly on the living room rug with her building blocks. The late November light was gray and thin, filtering through the window and casting long shadows across the floor. I felt physically depleted, my body aching with a fatigue that went deeper than just lack of sleep. I had spent the last 3 weeks curating every single detail of my mother's grand Thanksgiving revival, calling in favors from my best vendors, securing a discount on luxury linens, and putting the 5-figure deposit on my personal corporate card. My phone buzzed on the granite countertop. The screen lit up with a photo of my mother, a picture I had taken of her at a charity gala I had organized last year. She looked regal, polished, and demanding. I swiped to answer, forcing a cheerfulness I didn't feel into my voice. "Hi, Mom. Everything is set for Thursday. The florist confirmed the autumn centerpieces are." "Claire, stop," Beatrice cut me off, her tone sharp and clipped. It was her business voice, the one she used when she was about to deliver news she knew would be unpopular, but expected you to swallow without complaint. "We need to talk about the guest list." My stomach tightened. "The guest list? Mom, it's 2 days before Thanksgiving. The headcount is finalized. The caterers have already prepped the menu." "It's not about the numbers, it's about the atmosphere," she said, pausing for effect. "Your sister Olivia and I were discussing the flow of the evening. We have the mayor's wife coming, and potentially the new neighbors who bought the estate down the road. It's going to be a very adult, sophisticated evening." I rubbed my temple, the thumping behind my eye intensifying. "Okay, Zoe and I are family. We aren't neighbors. We'll just be there to eat and celebrate." "That's just it," Beatrice sighed, a sound that conveyed deep, performative exhaustion. "Zoe, she's a lot, Claire. You know how she gets with her fidgeting and the noise and her need to get up from the table. It's distracting. Olivia thinks it might ruin the elegance of the dinner if Zoe has one of her episodes." I froze, my breath caught in my throat as I looked over at Zoe. She was stacking blue blocks on top of red ones, humming a soft, happy tune to herself. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just a child, a wonderful, bright, neurodivergent child who experienced the world with a little more energy than others. "Are you saying," my voice shook, dropping to a whisper so Zoe wouldn't hear, "are you saying my daughter isn't invited to Thanksgiving?" "I'm saying this year we're doing a well-behaved kids-only rule," Beatrice said matter-of-factly. "Olivia's children are older, they know how to sit still with a napkin in their lap. Zoe just doesn't fit the aesthetic we're going for. It would be better if you found a sitter for her. Or, honestly, maybe she just stays home." "If she stays home, I stay home," I said, the shock beginning to curdle into anger. "Well, that's your choice, isn't it?" Beatrice replied breezily, as if we were discussing the color of napkins rather than my presence at a family holiday. "But obviously, the event goes on. You've already handled the logistics, so just make sure the vendors know the gate code. Oh, and send over the final timeline for the servers. We want champagne poured at 5:00 p.m. sharp." I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the casual cruelty in her voice. She wasn't just uninviting my daughter. She was dismissing my humanity while simultaneously demanding my labor and my money. "Mom," I said, my voice barely audible, "you can't be serious." Don't be dramatic, Claire. It's one dinner. We have to make a good impression. You of all people should understand that. It's your industry. She paused, then added the kicker. We'll miss you, of course, but make sure the caterer brings the extra truffle oil. Bye. The line went dead. I lowered the phone, my hand trembling. Zoe looked up from her blocks, sensing the shift in the room's energy. Her big brown eyes were filled with an innocent curiosity. Is Grandma excited for turkey? She asked, smiling that wide, gap-toothed smile that usually melted my heart. Tears pricked my eyes, hot and fast. I couldn't tell her. Not yet. I couldn't tell her that her own grandmother viewed her as a flaw in the aesthetic, a stain on the tablecloth. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it dismantled me. It was a physical blow, heavier than the exhaustion, sharper than the migraine. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis itself. For the next hour, I moved through my house like a ghost. I went through the motions of making lunch for Zoe, cutting sandwiches into triangles, slicing apples, but my mind was racing at 1,000 miles per hour. The sheer audacity of the conversation replayed in my head on an agonizing loop. Zoe doesn't fit the aesthetic. Send over the final timeline. Make sure the caterer brings the extra truffle oil. I sat on the sofa, watching Zoe eat, feeling a wave of nausea. I needed to be sure. I needed to know this wasn't just Beatrice having a momentary lapse of judgment. I picked up my phone and texted my sister, Olivia. Mom just called. She said Zoe isn't allowed at dinner. Please tell me she's joking. The response came 3 minutes later. No empathy, no shock, just 3 dancing dots that turned into a text that shattered the last remnant of my hope. Olivia, it's not a joke, Claire. Honestly, it's for the best. Last year Zoe knocked over that water glass and it was super awkward. We really need this dinner to be perfect for Mom's image. Just send the wine and enjoy a quiet night off. LOL. LOL. She had typed LOL while excluding her 7-year-old niece from a family holiday. I put the phone down, face down, on the coffee table. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. They weren't just being mean, they were being strategic. They wanted the perfect Thanksgiving to show off to their social circle, and they wanted me to bankroll it, plan it, and execute it, but they didn't want the messy parts of my life to be visible. They wanted my utility, not my company. I looked around my living room. It was modest, clean, and filled with Zoe's artwork. I worked 60-hour weeks to provide for us, to pay for Zoe's therapy, her tutoring, and to keep up appearances with my family. I had spent years trying to buy their love. When my father died, I stepped in to manage Beatrice's finances, only to find she was spending faster than I could save. I paid for the roof repairs. I paid for Olivia's emergency car repairs. And now, I was paying for a 4-course meal I wasn't allowed to eat. Zoe finished her sandwich and ran over to me, climbing into my lap. She wrapped her sticky arms around my neck. Mommy, are you sad? I buried my face in her hair, smelling her strawberry shampoo. A little bit, baby, but I'm okay. I'll be good at Grandma's, she whispered, pulling back to look me in the eye. I promise I won't wiggle. That broke me. She had heard, or she had sensed it. My 7-year-old daughter was promising not to wiggle just so she could be loved by her grandmother. Oh, honey, I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. You are perfect exactly the way you are. You never have to change for anyone. I hugged her tight, staring over her shoulder at the wall. A cold resolve began to settle over me, replacing the sadness. It was a terrifyingly calm feeling. It was the feeling of a bridge burning, the structure collapsing into the water, and realizing you were safe on the other side. My phone buzzed again, another text from Beatrice. Beatrice, don't forget to confirm the heated tent rental for the patio. It's supposed to be chilly. Also, did you pay the remaining balance for the servers? They called me asking about it. I stared at the screen. She was worried about the tent. She was worried about the servers. She wasn't worried about her daughter or her granddaughter. I typed back, my fingers flying across the screen, but then I stopped. I backspaced. I didn't send the angry paragraph I wanted to write. I didn't scream. Instead, I walked over to my home office and opened my laptop. I logged into my work email and pulled up the folder labeled Thanksgiving Beatrice. There, in black and white, were the contracts, the catering agreement, the rental contract for the tables, chairs, and the heated tent, the floral invoice. All of them had one name on the client line: Claire, Premier Events LLC. All of them were secured with my signature. And all of them were authorized on my credit card. Beatrice and Olivia thought they held all the power because they controlled the social invitation. They thought that by banishing me, they were punishing me into submission. They thought I was desperate enough to pay for the privilege of being treated like garbage. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. In the world of high-end events, the person who holds the contract holds the power, and I held every single one. To understand why I let it go this far, you have to understand Beatrice. My mother isn't just strict or particular. Beatrice is a woman who views her children not as human beings, but as accessories to her own life. She was a beauty queen in her 20s, a socialite in her 30s, and now, in her 60s, she is a woman desperately clinging to the fading relevance of her past. She lives in a house she can't afford, a sprawling Victorian on the hill that smells of lavender and judgment. Since my father passed away 5 years ago, maintaining that house has been her only priority. And by maintaining, I don't mean cleaning it herself. I mean hiring staff she can't pay and then guilt-tripping me into covering the checks. "Claire, darling," she would say, sipping white wine at 2:00 p.m. "You're the successful one, you're the career woman. Olivia is delicate, she needs help. You don't need help, you're strong." Strong was Beatrice's code word for exploitable. Because I was strong, I paid the property taxes. Because I was strong, I funded Olivia's lifestyle when her husband's business ventures failed for the third time. Olivia, 3 years younger than me, was the golden child. She was petite, compliant, and married a man Beatrice adored simply because he wore expensive suits, even if those suits were bought on credit. Olivia's children were quiet, sullen, and perfectly dressed. They were props. Zoe was not a prop. Zoe was vibrant, she laughed loud, she cried loud. She had ADHD and sensory processing differences. She was brilliant and kind, but she didn't fit into Beatrice's silent, sterile world. Beatrice had spent years making little comments about Zoe. Why doesn't she sit still? Does she have to wear those bright colors? Maybe she needs more discipline, Claire. You're too soft. I had swallowed every insult. I had smiled and nodded and paid the bills because I wanted a mother. I wanted Zoe to have a grandmother. I thought if I just made everything perfect, if I planned the best parties, bought the best gifts, solved every financial crisis, eventually she would love us. This Thanksgiving was supposed to be the masterpiece. Beatrice had pitched it as a family reunion, but in reality, it was a networking event. She had invited the local elite, people she wanted to impress to secure her status in the community. She had begged me to use my professional connections. "I need the best, Claire," she had told me a month ago, grabbing my hands. "I need the crystal stemware. I need the chef who did the gala. Please, this means everything to me." So I did it. I called Chef Marco, a man who usually charges $300 a head, and got him to agree to do it as a favor to me. I rented the imported mahogany tables. I ordered the ungodly expensive floral arrangements with the out-of-season orchids she demanded. I stood in front of the mirror in my hallway, looking at my reflection. I looked tired. I looked like a woman who had spent 34 years trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Beatrice was currently at the house, likely directing the cleaning crew I had paid for. I could imagine her, pointing a manicured finger at a speck of dust, criticizing the maid while sipping tea. She would be wearing her cashmere wrap, looking every inch the benevolent matriarch. She had no idea that the career woman she mocked for being too busy was about to become the most dangerous person in her life. She saw me as a wallet. She saw me as a logistics manager. She didn't see me as a person with a breaking point. But looking at Zoe, who was now quietly coloring a picture of a turkey with purple and green feathers. A turkey that Beatrice would hate because it wasn't realistic. I knew I had reached it. The antagonist of my life wasn't a villain in a movie. It was the woman who gave birth to me. And she was about to learn that when you bite the hand that feeds you, you shouldn't be surprised when the food disappears. The silence in the house after I closed my laptop was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with the humming energy of a decision finally made. I looked at the screen, at the digital signatures on the PDFs, and felt a strange dissociation. For years, my professional life had been about creating seamless experiences, about hiding the wires and the stress so that guests only saw magic. Now, I was calculating exactly how to reveal the machinery in the most destructive way possible. I didn't act immediately. Impulse is the enemy of strategy, and if there is one thing Beatrice taught me, albeit inadvertently, it is that you never strike until you have the leverage to win. I picked up my phone and dialed Marco. He wasn't just a chef, he was an artist I had worked with for 5 years. He was currently prepping the turkey and the truffle mash for tomorrow, likely shouting at a sous chef in Italian. Claire, H.E. answered on the second ring, the background noise of a busy kitchen clattering behind him. Tell me you aren't calling to change the menu again. Your mother already called 3 times today. She wants to know if the cranberries are organic. I told her cranberries are berries, they grow in bogs, leave me alone. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Marco, listen to me. I need you to listen very carefully. The tone of my voice must have cut through the kitchen noise because the clattering stopped. What is it? Is everything okay? The dinner is still on, I said, keeping my voice steady. But I need to clarify the terms of our contract. You have my corporate card on file for the remaining balance, correct? The $5,000 due upon completion of service. Sigh, of course. It runs automatically at 6:00 p.m. tomorrow when we serve the main course. I am placing a hold on that authorization, I said. Do not run that card unless I personally text you the code word greenlight at 5:55 p.m. tomorrow. Marco paused. Claire, what is going on? Why would you not greenlight it? Because Beatrice has uninvited Zoe and me, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. She wants the dinner, Marco. She wants the show. But she doesn't want the people who paid for it. She what? Marco's voice dropped an octave. He knew Zoe. He had made Zoe special gluten-free mac and cheese for her birthday last year. She kicked out the bambina. She says Zoe doesn't fit the aesthetic, I replied, staring at my reflection in the dark window. Maledizziani, Marco hissed. I should spit in the soup. No, I said quickly. No spitting. I want everything perfect, Marco. I want the table set. I want the smells wafting through the house. I want the guests seated and the wine poured. I want her to think she has won. I want her to feel the height of her triumph. And then, I said, my voice hardening, when the bill comes due and she assumes I'm just going to roll over and pay it like a good little doormat, I'm going to pull the rug out. If I don't send that code, you don't serve. You pack up. You demand payment from the host on site. If she can't pay, you leave. That is the protocol for a breach of contract, isn't it? Marco was silent for a long moment. Then I heard a dark, satisfied chuckle. Strictly speaking, yes. If the client, that's you, cancels the payment authorization, the on-site contact, that's her, must provide alternative payment immediately or services are terminated. It's standard policy. Good, I said. Prepare the food, go to the house, but keep your card reader charged. After hanging up with Marco, I went down the list. The rental company for the linens and the tent, the florist, the valet service. I called every single one of them. The conversation was the same. I am the contract holder. I am the payer. I am suspending payment authorization pending a site review. They were confused, but they were my vendors. They worked for Premier Events LLC, not Beatrice. They knew who signed their checks. By 4:00 p.m., I had built a kill switch into every single element of Beatrice's perfect evening. I walked into the living room where Zoe was watching cartoons. She looked up, her eyes wide. "Are we going to Grandma's tomorrow?" I sat down on the floor next to her. "No, sweetie. Grandma's house is going to be very boring tomorrow. Just old people talking about boring stuff. So I decided we are going to do something way better." "Better?" she asked, skeptical. "Way better. We are going to build a pillow fort in the living room. We are going to order the biggest pepperoni pizza in the world. And we are going to watch movies until midnight." Zoe's face lit up, the rejection from earlier completely forgotten. "Can we have ice cream too?" "We can have all the ice cream," I promised. But as I smiled at her, deep inside, the knot of anxiety tightened. I was about to declare war on my family. I was about to humiliate my mother in front of the mayor's wife. I was about to burn the bridge so thoroughly that I would never be able to cross it again. I needed to be sure. I needed one last confirmation that they truly didn't care about us. Thanksgiving Day arrived with a cruel kind of beauty. The sky was a crisp, brilliant blue, the kind of autumn day that begs for family photos and walks in the leaves. At Beatrice's house, I knew exactly what was happening. The timeline I had created was etched into my brain. 10:00 a.m., florist installation. 12:00 p.m., caterers arrive for prep. 4:00 p.m., guests arrive for cocktails. 5:00 p.m., dinner service begins. I spent the morning building the fort with Zoe. We dragged every cushion, blanket, and sheet into the living room, constructing a massive, cozy dome. We were laughing, wrestling on the floor, but my phone lay on the coffee table like a grenade waiting to go off. At 3:30 p.m., the text started. "Olivia just arrived. The house looks incredible. The flowers are stunning, Claire. Good job, too bad you're missing it. Beatrice, the valet is late. Call them." I didn't reply. I just watched the messages roll in. They were treating me like a remote employee. At 4:45 p.m., a photo came through. It was a selfie taken at the head of the table. Beatrice was in the center, wearing a new emerald green dress I knew she couldn't afford. Olivia was next to her, holding a crystal flute of champagne, smiling that tight, superior smile. In the background, I could see the table set for 20 people, the gold-rimmed chargers, the towering floral centerpieces, the candlelight flickering. It was perfect. It was exactly what I had designed. And there were no empty chairs. They had filled our spots. They had invited someone else to take the places meant for me and my daughter. Then came the text from Beatrice that sealed her fate. "Beatrice, we're just sitting down. The mayor is here. Everyone is asking where you are. I told them you were having some personal struggles and needed a quiet night. Probably for the best, given Zoe's issues. Enjoy your pizza, LOL." The air left my lungs. Personal struggles. She was painting me as unstable. She was using my absence, an absence she orchestrated, to garner sympathy for herself and slander me to the most important people in town. "Mommy," Zoe asked, tugging on my sleeve, "is the pizza coming?" "It's coming, baby," I said, my voice eerily calm. I picked up the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I typed a single message to the group chat that included Beatrice and Olivia. "Me personal struggles? Is that what we're calling it? You uninvited my daughter because she wasn't aesthetic enough. You wanted the party, but not the family. Understood. Since I'm not there, I'm no longer the host. Beatrice, don't start this now, Claire. We are at the table. Stop being dramatic. Olivia, OMG Claire, get over it. We're having a nice time. Don't ruin it. Me, I'm not ruining it. I'm just balancing the books. You uninvited the guests, so I'm uninviting my credit card. I'm canceling the payments. Now. Beatrice, you wouldn't dare. The food is literally on the table. Me, enjoy it. I hope it tastes like justice." I switched apps. I opened my text thread with Marco. Me, red light, execute cancellation, pull the plug. I did the same for the rental company manager, who was on site overseeing the tent heaters. Me, authorization revoked, recover assets. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wasn't just cutting them off, I was detonating the evening. I put the phone down and looked at Zoe. She was safe. She was loved. She was happy. And 2 miles away, all hell was about to break loose. The fallout was almost instantaneous. It started with a phone call from Beatrice at 5:02 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. Then Olivia called, voicemail. Then Beatrice again. Then the landline of Beatrice's house. I sat in the pillow fort, eating a slice of pepperoni pizza, watching the phone light up and buzz, dancing across the coffee table. Finally, a text from Marco came through. It wasn't a text, it was a voice note. I picked up the phone and held it to my ear, playing it on low volume. Marco whispering, sounding stressed but vindicated. "Claire, it is chaos. I got the text. I went to the dining room. I told your mother, Signora, the card on file has been declined by the holder. I cannot serve the main course without payment." She laughed at me. She told the mayor I was joking. I told her, no joke, $5,400 now, or we take the turkey back. I closed my eyes, visualizing the scene. The mayor's wife clutching her pearls. The neighbors exchanging glances. Beatrice's face turning from flush with wine to pale with terror. Another text came in, this time from Beatrice. "Beatrice, what have you done? Marco is packing up the warming trays. The rental people are here saying they need to take the chairs. People are sitting in THEM. CLAIRE, pick up the phone. Beatrice, you are humiliating me. Fix this. Beatrice, I can't pay this. You know I can't pay this." I typed back slowly. "Me, you wanted to play the rich matriarch, Mom. Rich matriarchs pay their own bills. You told everyone I had struggles. Well, my struggle is that I don't support people who abuse my child." The phone rang again. It was Beatrice. This time I answered. I put it on speaker, but kept the volume low so Zoe wouldn't hear the specifics, just the tone. "Claire," Beatrice screamed. It was a guttural, animalistic sound. "How could you do this? The mayor is staring at me. Marco is actually taking the plates away. He took the truffle mash." "I told you," I said, my voice cold and steady. "I canceled the contract." "But why?" she wailed, her voice cracking. "Because of Zoe. You're doing this because of a bratty kid." "Zoe is not a brat," I cut in, sharp as a knife. "She is my daughter, and since she wasn't welcome, neither is my money. You have two choices, Mom. You can write Marco a check for $5,000, plus another $3,000 for the rentals, and maybe he'll stay. Or you can explain to your guests why you tried to scam your daughter into paying for a party she wasn't invited to." "I don't have $8,000, she hissed. "You know that." "Then I guess you're ordering pizza," I said. "It's actually quite good. We're having it right now." "I will never forgive you for this," Beatrice spat. "You are dead to me." "Mom," I said, feeling a final, heavy weight lift off my chest. "I've been dead to you for years. You just forgot to bury me because you needed my credit card." I hung up. But the silence didn't last. The investigation, the building of the case, was happening in real time on social media. My sister Olivia, in her infinite wisdom, had decided to go live on Instagram to expose me. My notification popped up. "Olivia Live is broadcasting. My sister is a psycho." I tapped on it. The video feed was shaky. Olivia was standing in the foyer of the Victorian house. In the background, I could see guests awkwardly putting on their coats. The rental crew was visibly folding up chairs in the dining room behind her. "Guys, I can't believe this." Olivia was crying into the camera, her mascara running. "My sister Claire, she's literally insane. She canceled the catering in the middle of dinner just because Mom said her kid couldn't come. She's jealous. She's always been jealous of us. She's ruining Thanksgiving." I watched the comments roll in. User 1, "Wait, she uninvited the kid." User 2, "If my mom uninvited my kid, I'd burn the house down. Go Claire." User 3, "Lol, wait, so Claire was paying, and you kicked her out." Olivia wasn't getting the sympathy she wanted. She was accidentally exposing the entire dynamic. Then, I saw something in the background of the video that made my blood run cold, then boil hot. Beatrice was standing by the door, trying to block the rental guys from taking the heated tent equipment. She was yelling, "She's mentally unstable. My daughter is off her medication. You can't listen to her." She was doubling down. She wasn't just calling me petty. She was claiming I was clinically insane to protect her own reputation. She was willing to destroy my professional credibility, my livelihood, just to save face in front of the neighbors. If anyone in my industry heard that, if my clients thought I was unstable and prone to canceling events on a whim, I would lose everything. Beatrice knew that. She was going for the jugular. I realized then that simply canceling dinner wasn't enough. She was lying to vendors, lying to guests, and lying to the internet about my mental health to cover her tracks. I stood up. "Zoe," I said gently, "do you want to go for a ride?" "Where?" she asked, mouthful of crust. "To Grandma's house," I said. "I have to go pick up something I left there." My dignity, I thought. "But you stay in the car with the iPad, okay?" "Okay." I grabbed my coat. I wasn't going to hide behind a phone anymore. She wanted to tell everyone I was crazy? Fine. I would show up, perfectly sane, perfectly calm, and I would present the receipts in person. I would expose the financial abuse, the manipulation, and the lies in front of the mayor, the neighbors, and the live Instagram audience. I was going to finish this. The driveway of my childhood home looked like a crime scene, illuminated by the harsh headlights of the catering vans and the flashing hazards of the rental truck. I pulled my SUV up to the curb, a safe distance from the chaos, and put the car in park. "Okay, Bug," I said, turning to Zoe in the back seat. "Mommy has to go talk to Grandma for 5 minutes. You have your iPad, you have your juice box." "Yep," she chirped, engrossed in a game where she was dressing up penguins. She was completely oblivious to the war zone outside, and I intended to keep it that way. "I'll be right back, lock the doors." I stepped out into the biting November air. The wind whipped my coat around my legs as I marched up the walkway. I could hear Beatrice's voice before I even reached the front steps. The door was wide open. Completely hysterical, "We've been trying to get her help for months." Beatrice was shrieking, her voice pitching up into a register that usually shattered glass. "You cannot leave, Mr. Mayor. She's off her medication. I will pay you, I promise, just as soon as I get her under control." I walked through the door. The foyer was a tableau of disaster. Marco was standing by the door with his arms crossed, looking furious. 2 of his servers were carrying out trays of unserved appetizers. In the living room, the mayor and his wife were standing awkwardly by the coat rack, looking like they wanted to teleport away. Olivia was still holding her phone up, live-streaming the meltdown, her face a mask of panic and confusion. "I am not off my medication, Mother," I announced. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a gavel strike. Silence slammed into the room. Everyone turned to look at me. Beatrice froze, her hand mid-gesture. For a split second, she looked terrified. Then, her eyes narrowed, and she decided to double down. "Claire," she gasped, rushing toward me but stopping short when she saw the look on my face. "Oh, thank God you're here. She's confused," she said, turning back to the mayor, breathless and performative. "She's having an episode. Claire, darling, just give Marco the card. Stop this silliness. We can discuss your condition later." She reached for my purse. I took a step back, smooth and deliberate. "Don't touch me." I reached into my bag, but instead of a credit card, I pulled out a stack of papers, the printed contracts, and my phone. "Mr. Mayor," I said, turning to the heavy-set man who was currently clutching his fedora like a shield. "I apologize for the interruption to your evening. My mother seems to be under the impression that my cancellation of this event is due to a mental health crisis. I am here to correct the record, as my professional reputation is on the line." "Claire, stop it," Olivia shouted from the corner, lowering her phone slightly. "You're embarrassing us." "No, Olivia," I said, not looking at her. You embarrassed yourselves when you uninvited my daughter. I held up my phone, screen bright, facing the room. I had screenshotted the text conversation and enlarged it. Read it, I said to the room. Read what the hostess of this family dinner wrote about a 7-year-old girl. Beatrice lunged, "Don't you dare." But Marco stepped in her way, a wall of white chef's coat. "Let her speak, Signora." I read the text aloud, my voice steady, enunciating every syllable. "We're doing a well-behaved kids-only rule. Zoe just doesn't fit the aesthetic. It would be better if she stays home. But make sure the caterer brings the extra truffle oil." I lowered the phone and looked directly at the mayor's wife. She was a grandmother herself. I saw the look of repulsion cross her face. "I am not crazy," I said, my voice rising with the strength of 1,000 silent sacrifices. "I am a mother who refused to let her child be treated like a dirty secret. I am also the person who has paid for the roof over this head, the car in the driveway, and the food you were about to eat. I paid for the aesthetic that my daughter wasn't good enough to look at." "That's a lie," Beatrice screamed, her face twisting into something ugly and unrecognizable. "She's lying. She's jealous because Olivia is successful. She's trying to ruin me." "Successful?" I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. I turned to the rental manager, who was waiting by the door with a clipboard. "Gary, you have the invoice for today's event." "Yes, ma'am," Gary said, looking uncomfortable. "Outstanding balance is $3,200. "And the previous events?" I asked. "The Easter brunch, the 4th of July party." "All paid by Premier Events LLC. Your card," Gary confirmed. I turned back to Beatrice. She was trembling, shaking with a rage that had nowhere to go. The facade was crumbling. The rich matriarch was melting away, revealing the grifting bully underneath. "I am canceling my financial support," I said, addressing the room but looking straight into Beatrice's eyes. "Not because I'm sick, but because I'm done. You wanted a perfect dinner, you can pay for it. You wanted to impress the town, you can do it on your own dime." The mayor cleared his throat. It was a thunderous sound in the quiet room. "Beatrice," the mayor said, his voice cold, "I think we'll be going." "No, wait," Beatrice grabbed his arm. "It's a misunderstanding, we have turkey." "I've lost my appetite," the mayor's wife said, stepping around Beatrice as if she were a puddle of muddy water. She stopped in front of me. She looked me up and down, then reached out and squeezed my hand. "Go home to your daughter, dear. You're better off." "Thank you," I whispered. As the guests filed out, the house felt suddenly massive and empty. The illusion was gone. It was just a drafty old house filled with rented furniture that was currently being repossessed. Beatrice stood in the center of the hallway, alone. Olivia was slumped against the wall, her phone at her side, the live stream likely still running, capturing the utter silence of their defeat. "You ruined everything," Beatrice whispered, staring at the floor. "Everyone knows now. Everyone knows I'm broke." "No, Mom," I said, turning toward the door. "I didn't ruin anything. I just turned on the lights." I walked out. I didn't look back. I heard Beatrice start to sob, a loud, wailing sound meant to draw me back, meant to hook my guilt one last time. I kept walking. The drive home was quiet, but it was the most peaceful silence I had ever known. Zoe had fallen asleep in the back seat, her head lolling against the window, the iPod declutching in her small hands. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel glee. I felt light. It was a physical sensation, as if I had been carrying a backpack full of stones for 30 years and had finally, mercifully, set it down on the side of the road. When we got home, I carried Zoe inside and tucked her into bed. She stirred slightly, murmuring something about penguins, and then settled back into deep, dreamless sleep. I stood in her doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe. I had protected her. I had finally, truly protected her. The aftermath in the following weeks was exactly what I expected, yet somehow worse for them. The video Olivia had live-streamed, the one where she called me a psycho, had backfired spectacularly. Someone had screen-recorded the end, the part where I walked in and exposed the text messages. It went viral locally. The town gossip Facebook group, usually a cesspool of negativity, was unanimously on my side. Commenter A: imagine uninviting a 7-year-old to Thanksgiving and then asking her mom to pay for the turkey. The audacity. Commenter B: I know Beatrice. She owes my husband money for landscaping from 2018. Good for Claire. Beatrice's reputation didn't just take a hit, it evaporated. The mayor, it turned out, was quite chatty. The story of the check bounce Thanksgiving became local legend. The social standing Beatrice had hoarded like dragon's gold was worthless. The financial fallout was swift. Without my card on file, the vendors came for Beatrice directly. Marco sent a formal invoice. The rental company threatened small claims court. Beatrice tried to guilt me into paying one last time, leaving voicemails ranging from weeping apologies to vitriolic threats. But I had blocked her number on everything except email, and I had a filter set to send her emails directly to a folder I never opened. Olivia tried to backtrack. She showed up at my door a week later, holding a box of cheap chocolates. "Mom is really driving me crazy," she had said, trying to lean against the doorframe like nothing had happened. "She's so toxic, right? Anyway, I was thinking maybe you and I could grab coffee. I need to ask you about a loan for." I didn't even let her finish. "No," I said. "No," she blinked, confused, "but I'm your sister." "You're the woman who laughed when my daughter cried," I said. "We aren't sisters, we're relatives, and I'm not a bank anymore. Goodbye, Olivia." I closed the door, I locked it, and then I went into the kitchen to make hot chocolate. Christmas that year was small. It was just Zoe and me. I didn't hire a chef. I didn't rent linens. We made messy gingerbread houses that looked like structural disasters. We wore pajamas all day. We ate ham sandwiches and potato chips on the floor of the living room while watching The Grinch. "Mommy," Zoe asked, biting the head off a gingerbread man, "is this the best Christmas ever?" I looked around the room. There were no guests to impress. There was no aesthetic to maintain. There was just love, laughter, and the safety of a home where no one had to perform to be worthy of affection. "Yes, baby," I said, kissing the top of her head. "It's the best one ever." I had lost a mother and a sister, yes. But looking at my daughter, laughing and free, I knew I had gained something far more valuable. I had gained my life back. And for the first time in 34 years, the bill was paid in full.